So Marx and Engels see this sort of primordial or primitive feudal socialism as having the right intentions, but ultimately not being decisive enough. You can see here in where he starts to get very rhetorical. You can he has a wicked sense of humor. They have a wicked sense of humor, Marx and Engels, and so it's almost like a Monty Python type sort of move or rhetorical moves that they make at times here. So here they talk about this feudal socialism and they relate it to clerical socialism, right? So they're saying that socialism, this type of socialism is very connected to Christianity, right? And the social justice movement of Christianity. So if you go back to the Bible, right? Yeah, they are basically proto-socialists there. They're against private property, against marriage, against the state, all these things, right? Um, and it, but he's definitely mocking it, right? He's saying, well, this type of socialism is the same thing as religion, Christianity, right? It really doesn't. It might point out the problems, but it doesn't do anything, right? It basically says, well, that might be a better world, but this is the world we have. You have to live and suffer with it. Petty bourgeois socialism, right? So here he talks about this new class of the petty bourgeois, which is created, right? And so this is an interesting category that you want to keep in mind. Interesting class category. So they're not proletariat, but they're not quite bourgeois, right? They're in between. And so petty bourgeois are basically are shopkeepers or small business owners or nowadays maybe entrepreneurs would fit into this category. So they're wannabe capitalists, and oftentimes uh, they're they support the capitalist system in a reactionary way, even more than the capitalists do. Uh, so they're on the rise. They want to get to the next rung. Uh, they're capitalists in the sense that they own property, they own businesses, they employ labor, but they don't. They work alongside their own labor, so they're not quite the capitalists that they could be. Okay, but it's a very important sort of class that he's talking about here, and I think this really applies to the American contemporary scene as well. So then he moves on to talk, or they move on to talk about, what's wrong with this form of socialism, right? And so they're going to say, even though they say the right things, they're both reactionary and utopian.